Okay, get ready for a wild ride today, because we're diving into a paper that'll really make you think.
Yeah, it's like a whole new framework for understanding intelligence and consciousness. It challenges a lot of assumptions.
Exactly. The paper's called Technological Approach to Mind Everywhere. And honestly, it's dense.
It is.
You sent this one to me, and it's complicated, but wow, it has big ideas
It is.
about the future of biology, AI, even what it means to be human.
Definitely.
So where do we even start with this one?
Well, they start off by challenging a basic idea. They say we shouldn't just be looking at, familiar animal.
Lab rats and stuff.
Exactly, lab rats to study thinking and cognition.
Because rats think like us, so they're the best model.
Right, but the authors say that's a limited view of what intelligence can be. Especially now with bioengineering and AI, we're creating all these new types of bodies and minds, so old definitions just aren't cutting it anymore.
Okay, so what are they proposing instead? Is my houseplant secretly judging my music?
Well, maybe not exactly like that, but they are suggesting that we need to view intelligence as problem solving
Okay.
in any space, not just in a big, complex brain.
All right, give me an example.
Mhm.
How can a plant, or like a single cell even, be intelligent?
Imagine a plant adapting to the light to grow better. It's a way of solving problems to thrive, right? Even without a brain like we picture it.
So it's not conscious thought, but it's still the system responding to information to reach a goal.
Exactly. And even individual cells, the building blocks of everything, they show this problem solving too.
Right.
But they have to monitor their environment, communicate, make decisions to keep the organism alive.
Wow, that is wild when you think about it. Our bodies are trillions of these tiny cells,
Hmm.
all sensing, responding, basically making choices constantly. It's like this whole hidden world.
Totally. And it gets even more mind-blowing.
Okay.
The paper then digs into how those cells actually do this. And one of the keys is something called gap junctions.
Gap junctions, break that down for me.
Think of them as little tunnels connecting the cells so they can share information and sync up.
Huh.
It's like the internet for cells, letting them work as a big network.
Each cell's a tiny computer, and the gap junctions are the Wi-Fi letting them all talk.
Precisely. And being interconnected like that allows for some remarkable things.
Like what?
They talk about these creatures, planaria, they're flatworms that can regenerate.
Regenerate. Like you cut one in half, and it grows into two worms.
Exactly that. But it gets weirder.
Oh.
Scientists have figured out how to mess with their bioelectricity, the electrical activity in between cells, and make them grow multiple heads.
Multiple heads. Now they're just showing off. How's that even possible? Are they, rewiring the planaria's brain?
Not quite. Remember how we talked about those gap junctions letting cells communicate? Well, bioelectricity is key in how those signals travel and tell the cells what to do.
Okay.
So by messing with the bioelectricity, scientists are basically rewriting the planaria's body plan, making it grow extra heads.
So they're basically hacking the electrical language of life itself. My head's spinning a little, to be honest.
Yeah.
What does this mean for more complex creatures, even us?
That is where things get really interesting, and we'll dive into that more after the break.
Okay, so before the break, we were talking about those planaria, the worms that can regrow body parts. And scientists are basically hot wiring them with bioelectricity.
Yeah, it's wild.
That's crazy. But the paper doesn't stop there, does it?
No, not at all. They take this bioelectricity idea, like it's some kind of pattern memory,
Yeah.
and then they scale it up to ask huge questions about consciousness.
All right, now we're getting into the really mind-bending stuff.
Yeah,
How do you even study something like consciousness?
right. It's like one of the biggest mysteries in science. But this paper is suggesting that we need to think about the whole body as a kind of cognitive system, not just the brain.
Okay.
And that bioelectricity is key to how information flows and patterns emerge.
So instead of a single mind in the brain, it's more like a network of intelligence all over the body.
Right.
Like a network of computers all connected and sharing data.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. And just like with a computer network, the complexity can increase with more and more units connected together.
Right.
So the paper is suggesting the scaling up of how information is processed.
Yeah.
That might be how we go from single cells to complex organisms with, subjective experiences.
So they're saying our sense of self, our me-ness, could be coming from all these bioelectric conversations in our bodies.
That's one of the big ideas they're putting forward. It really challenges how we traditionally see consciousness, that it's just in the brain. They're suggesting it's more distributed and more interconnected.
Wow. Okay, so what does that mean for the future? Are we talking about, uploading our consciousness to the cloud?
Haha. Well, that's probably a question for a whole other deep dive. But this paper definitely raises questions about the future of intelligence,
Okay.
both biological and artificial. If consciousness isn't limited to brains as we know them, what new possibilities does that open up, right?
Okay, now I'm really curious. Give me an example.
Okay, well, let's take AI. What if, instead of trying to just copy the human brain, we designed AI that used these bioelectric principles to
Yeah,
make totally new forms of intelligence?
right.
You could have AI that's not just mimicking us, but exploring totally different ways of thinking.
Wow, that's a wild thought.
Right. It's
Yeah.
like we're not just talking about making computers smarter, but changing what intelligence itself means.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond just AI, too. Think about medicine, for example.
Yeah.
If we can really understand these bioelectric signals that control things like development, regeneration. Yeah.
We could use that to develop therapies that use the body's own intelligence to heal in ways we can't even imagine right now.
Okay, now I'm seeing the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just about, like, finding out where minds are. It's about a whole new way of thinking about life, about the potential for intelligence everywhere, in everything.
You got it.
Yeah.
And they even go a step further, suggesting a new way to compare different kinds of intelligence, whether
Yeah.
it's biological, artificial, even something in between.
A framework for intelligence. Tell me more about that. So before the break, we were talking about this new framework for understanding intelligence, and it sounds like it's about moving beyond just, like, brain size.
Absolutely. It's about looking at a much wider range of things.
Okay.
So they're proposing a framework with multiple axes.
Okay.
Things like what scale of goals can a system pursue?
How well can it adapt to stress?
Okay.
How complex are its problem-solving strategies?
So it doesn't matter if we're talking about like bacteria, an ant colony, a human brain, or even some super advanced AI.
Right.
We could use this framework to actually compare them fairly.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that intelligence shows up in so many ways.
Yeah.
And that just comparing a bee's brain to ours might be totally missing the point.
Okay, I think I'm getting it.
Yeah.
We've gone from figuring out where minds might be to completely rethinking what intelligence, even IS.
Yeah.
This paper is really blowing my mind.
That's what's so exciting, though, right? We're embracing how mysterious and complex intelligence really is.
Yeah.
And realizing we've got so much more to learn.
It really makes you wonder what we're missing out on just because, we haven't been looking in the right places or asking the right questions.
For sure. I mean, for centuries, we've been trapped by our own human-centered way of thinking,
Yeah.
assuming that we're the gold standard for intelligence.
Really, like they're the most intelligent.
Exactly. But what if we're just this tiny little twig on a giant tree of all these different cognitive possibilities?
That is a very humbling thought.
It is.
And it makes all this research on bioelectricity and like the nature of consciousness
Yeah.
even more important. We're not just trying to figure ourselves out.
Right.
We could be about to unlock all kinds of new intelligence and innovation.
Absolutely. And as we move into these uncharted areas,
Yeah.
we've got to be both curious and really careful. This paper kind of hints at a future where biology, tech, and consciousness,
Yeah.
they all start to blur together. And that's a future with incredible potential, but also we have to think about the ethics.
Absolutely. It's a lot to take in.
It is.
But as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to hear from you, the listener. How has this paper changed how you think about intelligence, about nature, about what it means to be human in a world where mind could be everywhere? Let us know.
That's the big question.
It really is.
Sure.
And that's what makes this paper so fascinating. It doesn't give us all the answers,
Nope.
but it opens up a whole universe of possibilities and makes us keep asking the big questions.
Exactly.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder all of this. Thanks for joining us for this incredible Jeff Dive.
Thanks, everyone.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep your mind open to all the wonders out there.